We're going to get started in 1 minute. Grab your food, grab your seats. Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon. What are we doing today? I'm not even sure anymore. Come on in, everybody. Grab your seats. We're going to kick this off. We have a lot of great information that we're going to go over today. And I know that y'all are here for some incredible speakers, which we're going to get to. So as many of you know, we had actually planned to have best-selling author Michael Mayer here with us today. And unfortunately, his wife Sherry called me and he is extremely ill. So he asked me to apologize on his behalf, but the good news is he will be coming August 7th. We've got that information that's actually right in front of you. August 7th, he'll be coming back. We're so excited to have him. He's going to be bringing books, so if you don't have a book, that's okay. He's going to bring one you can buy and sign and all the good things. So he will be coming in August, okay? So what was really interesting is, well, what happens when your guest of honor has to reschedule? We pivot. Whoever said that, thank you so much. Because here's the thing, for us as well, it's just like your businesses. Things happen every day and we have to pivot and we have to pivot fast. So I'm so excited that y'all have come to join because the number one thing that came up when I started speaking with top agents yesterday was, okay, I'm having these conversations left and right, but I really don't know how to handle this buyer side conversation. And I'll tell you, our guests today are here by request, and I'm so excited. So we've got some information to go through. We're going to get through that pretty quickly, connect on a couple things, and then we're going to bring our guests up to speak. And it's going to become a mastermind as well. So I want you to ask questions. I want you to talk about the experience that you're having because we're better off together, yes?
Yes.
Amazing. So tell me something good. In the last week, Stephanie's like, I'm ready. I love it. I can't wait for something good. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I have an upcoming listing it's with a good friend, a family friend that for 35 years, and I was really nervous about this listing. She had inherited her mother-in-law's house, and I've never worked in this area, haven't sold it, but it's a really cool area, but the house is a complete renovation. So I asked two of our top producers if they would take time out of their busy schedule to come and meet me and give me an opinion on a price because I wanted to make sure I did it perfectly.
That's a great idea.
So anyway, I want to give a quick shout out to both Shelley Woody and Eric Benjamin for taking time last Friday to drive to help me. And Shelley drove from Roswell to Decatur, and they both live over there and work over there before. So I just really appreciate it.
That's awesome.
I feel so much better now.
Thank you for sharing that. Y'all, thank you so much. It's like the best display of culture. I really appreciate it. Because here's the thing. Would y'all agree that there's a lot of competition out there? Yeah. But here's the thing. We're here together. We're here to raise each other up because iron sharpens iron, right? So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Any other good news? Any other good things that have happened in the last week? Heck, I've been gone 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks. Vanessa. Yes, Ignite started.
Ignite is on fire, and if there's anybody in here who would like to take Ignite, who has taken it in the past and wants to have a refresher on foundations, fundamentals, or if you're a newer agent that still needs your post-licensing credit, you can still take the Ignite course. You will have only missed one class. If you take all the other classes, you will still qualify for your post-licensing CE.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
that, Coach Vanessa. Awesome. So if you've not, here's the thing. Ignite is not just for new agents. Yes, it's post-license, but the reality is, first of all, you also get 9 CEs. And if you've not had at least 15 deals, right, in a year, you should be taking Ignite. It really goes back to the fundamentals, which you're going to hear a lot about today because, y'all, that's what this market is bringing us back to. Would you agree? It's back to the fundamentals and back to the basics. I'll share a little bit of good news too, and then we'll move on. So most of you know, because I sent y'all an email, that I was in Austin last week at our KW corporate headquarters in Austin, Texas. And to say that it was slightly intimidating, definitely mind-blowing is probably an understatement. So if you haven't checked it out, I put all my ahas up on my Facebook page. There are multiple posts worth. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more in the coming months as well. Because here's the thing. We kind of joked that last year was a bit of a dumpster fire, right? 2023 was a really hard year. And coming into the first half of 2024, I think there's been a lot more hope and a lot more optimism. And right now, there's something that's happening in the market that's really interesting. We're seeing buyers hold off. We're seeing inventory sit a little bit longer. And again, we're sort of saying, okay, well, what happened to that big year that we were expecting? And rates have gone up. Although there's good news about that, right? I heard some good news coming towards the end of the year about rates coming down. Side note, if you have questions, please see our Supreme team because they're amazing and the experts on it. And all that to say that I'm so excited that we get to do this together. And I want to thank you for being here every day and in our training so that we can do it together. Yes, Ayala.
Wanted to ask something about the tell us something good. I want to say thank you to McMichael and I'm sorry. I want to say thank you to McMichael and Gray. Davika, I don't know if she's here. I saw it outside. They brought us Mark King last week.
Awesome.
And he was phenomenal. Who somebody doesn't know, Mark King used to be our president long time ago. I'm sorry, about 5 months ago. And he came in and gave us a lot of information about wealth building and how to look at our clients and help them make better life for themselves. So thank you so much.
Love that. Thank you so much. All right. So again, in case you missed it, Michael Mayer will be here on August 7th, same time as before, 11:30 to 1. Please make sure you come in early to get a seat because the room will pack out. Okay? Yes, Shelly.
Do we need to re-sign up for that?
You do not need to re-sign up for it. I'm telling everybody, come early because we ended up getting a lot more traction on that one. And it's sort of, I don't want to say like once in a lifetime because some of you have heard from him before, but we're the first market center that I know of in Georgia that's having him come speak in any recent time. So make sure you come early, grab a seat. All right, match game. So I see some new faces in the room. First of all, welcome. Whether you're with Keller Williams yet or not, we want to welcome you and say thank you for coming in to join. This is something we do every week. So match game is essentially if you've got listings coming up that you want to find someone to work with in the room, or if you've got a buyer need, we're going to ask you to stand up. We take a minute briefly. If it's a listing, give us the address, bed, bathroom, square feet, and a highlight of it, and hopefully we can make a match for you right here in the room. So with that being said, who's right back in the room? Okay. Listing or buyer, go ahead and stand up. She's like, oh boy, put me on the spot.
No, it's okay. So I'm Janae.
Hi, Janae.
And hi. Oh, well, I have any food on my teeth. My listing is 311 Crescentwood Drive in Dallas, Georgia. It's a 3-2, 2.5, and it's $350. So it's a corner lot,
Awesome.
and it's in the subdivision Barrett Chase.
Okay, perfect. So if you've got a client looking in Dallas, Georgia, that's in Barrett Chase, and price point was $350
Double backyard.
and a 3.5. So be thinking about who you've got, right? Go through that mental Rolodex. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yes, Stephanie.
Hey, I'm Stephanie. I've got 5023 Rockbridge Road in Stone Mountain. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, almost 2,000 square feet, $350,000. Renovated, updated, really nice, half-acre lot.
Amazing. And what was the price?
Please. Huh?
What was the price?
$350. Only
$350.
$350.
That's a great
Yeah.
price.
Only.
Y'all, call your investors even. Somebody needs to scoop that up. We've got one more over there. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Asif Lakhani. I
Hi,
have
Asif.
a property on 550 Whitlocks. It's in West Midtown on the corner of Northside and Deering. It's a new construction community. It's a resale property for $715. It's a 3-3 with 2 half baths. It's a 4-story townhome, and the top floor has a bonus room with 2 outdoor patios on
Wow.
each side of the bonus room. 550 Whitlocks, and we're going to be doing an open house on Saturday from 12 to 5. 550 Whitlocks in West
And
Midtown.
Asaf, what's the price?
$715.
$715. Okay, so again, you know where you're going this weekend for an open house if
Thank
you've got a client looking. Thank you for sharing. Yep, back of the room. Hello, lovely Robin.
Hello. So listen, I have
Oh boy.
I have this
We said brief. No, I'm just kidding.
this wonderful property coming up. It's a 2-1, right?
Okay.
It's an Anoda in Atlanta. Square footage is under 1,000, but this is the good thing. Lot is right there on the belt line. I don't mean near. I mean on the belt line. You can walk out the back door and be on the belt line, and there's room to put at least 2 ADUs. Call me for real.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh,
Under 4.
under 400. Amazing. Okay. Any other listings, Cheryl? And then we're going to come up here.
A couple. So one is a lot that's coming in city of Beaufort, 0.4 acre, 120,000.
What?
That'll be this week. I know, right?
That slipped out. I was like, I'm sorry. Say what?
0.4 acres. And if anyone knows about land lots, there's no real address, so the house on the other street, which is Bona Road, is 650 Bona Road. The lot is directly behind it. So that's coming this week. Then there is a 2.5 townhouse, Sugar Hill. That'll be around 370.
Okay.
That's coming end of the month, and there'll be an open house on the weekend. Then there is Hamilton Mill, mid 800s, 865, 870. 5-bedroom, full basement. It's actually another house in the basement.
Wow.
Theater, saltwater pool, that's coming as well. And there's one I'm missing. I miss one every week. But
Okay, clearly Cheryl is working. Good for you. That is awesome. Please keep us posted on those, okay? Yes, and then right up here.
Eli, I don't have a listing, but I have a buyer need. I have a young lady who currently lives in Dunwoody and is living in an apartment and would like to get out of there. She's breaking that lease. It's an unsafe environment, and she's looking to leave. But she would like to buy a home. If anyone has something, she would love something mid-century, has some parental funding that's going to help her in a big way, would like to be under 700, but she's starting a new job that's going to be north of Cartersville, doesn't want to be all the way out there, but is willing to consider basically anything in metro Atlanta that's safe, has a yard for dogs, and is in the 700-ish or below.
Love that. Thank you for sharing, Eli. So again, if you've got people in your Rolodex who are waiting, hi, maybe they shouldn't wait. Maybe Eli has your client. Yes, please.
Hi, Michelle Dios with the WOW team. Hopefully coming up next week. It's literally the heart of Milton, Crabapple, 3 acres. It is an as-is, but it's got so much potential. It is 5-bedroom, 4-bath. We've got a guest house and a saltwater pool.
Wow.
It's fantastic. So
And what was the price point again?
probably around 1,275. We're
Okay.
negotiating on that right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a good one. So.
Good for you for having the conversation and negotiating it to where it needs to be. Love to hear that. I think we had Raphael, and then we'll wrap it up.
So I have a townhome. The address is 1759 Stephanie Trail. It's at the towns at Druid Hills and North Druid Hills. It's a 4-bed, 3.5 bath coming up next Thursday. It's gonna be around 680, right at 3,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. So it's on a full basement, and it's very low turnover, so they go pretty quick.
That's great. What was the price again?
About 680.
About 680. Okay, that's phenomenal. That's a really great investment because that appreciates over time for sure. Again, congratulations, y'all. Y'all are taking that market share. You're taking those listings. And what do more listings bring? Even more listings, right? More clients. So great job. Let's take a look at this. So for those of you, if you are new and this is your first time coming, every single week we actually look at some of the data from the market, months of inventory, median sold price, etc. Take a look at this, y'all. We're not going to spend too much time because the reality is there's really not a huge change from week to week, which is interesting because in the last 6 weeks, we have been seeing a big change week over week. So it looks like things are getting a little bit more steady. We'll be curious to see how buyers react when it kind of eventually hits them that rates are coming back down. So hopefully we'll start to see a little bit of a change in days on market. We'll continue to see prices go up. It feels like they've hit a little bit of a threshold, so that'll be really interesting. Hyper locally, you might see a little bit of a different change, but this is for Metro Atlanta as a whole. Any questions on this slide? No? Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Hi, raise your hand if you're registered for Mega Camp. Yeah. Oh, look at that. See, y'all, top producers are going to Mega Camp. If you have not yet signed up, this is one of 2 of our phenomenal conventions that we do every year. We're going to be going to Austin, Texas, masterminding with top and mega agents from all over the world. If you have booked, y'all, I'm talking to you that had your hands up, room block ends today. So if you want to make sure you get that hotel at a good price, you're going to want to book that today. If you haven't signed up or you have questions, come see me afterwards, and I'll give you a little bit more information about Mega Camp. And finally, who you work with matters. So let's go ahead and bring up our amazing lunch sponsor. I know you've had a chance to introduce yourself. Come on down. Let's give him love.
Test, 1, 2, 1, 2, test. Good morning, Keller Williams First Atlanta. My name is Larry Hudson. I'm at Lunds Pro Inspection Services. We provide residential, commercial inspections to the real estate market here in Atlanta. Some of you may have never heard of us before. We've only been around for 37 years, so give us some time to get some notice. I put this up on the board here. Back in the day when I had it rough, for about 4 or 5 weeks out of the summer, I could wake up in the morning, slide down my bed, look out the window and see the Atlantic Ocean. And I could actually see if there were waves that day. I would get on my feet and figure out, what am I going to tell my boss why I won't be in work today? Okay, because there's waves. Well, fast forward, I have no hair, got kids. I don't get to spend 4 or 5 weeks at the Jersey Shore anymore. But every year my wife and I go to Panama City Beach. And first 3 days we were there this year, the Gulf was flat as a lake. I just tell my friends up north, it's just a salty palm. That's all it is. But on Monday of Memorial Day, we wake up and there's waves. And I look out the window and say to my wife, there's waves. And my wife's like, yeah, it's the Gulf of Mexico, there's waves. But it's like rideable waves. So I throw my gear on, I run down to our chair and our umbrella, take all the stuff off, jump in the water, swim out, and I'm standing there looking at everybody on the beach, and I'm the only one in the water. And I'm like, this is really cool. Okay, I don't have to worry about running anybody. So I did some body surfing, flailing about, having a good time. And I just got to thinking, I said, wonder why all these people, no one's getting in the water. Maybe it's because we're a little cold. Well, what it was, in my haste to get in the water and start having fun, is I missed the double red flags. Okay? Double red flags in Panama City Beach mean the beach is closed and you can get a $500 ticket for going in the water. Now, I didn't know that, but I got out and 2 other guys, hey, Lee, good to see you, brother. But 2 guys went in, and then the beach police pulled up and they got the $500 tickets, okay? So I had missed the sign, the red flags. Now, when you get a home inspection report back, all agents do it, I know nobody reads it from start to finish, is you look for the red stuff, right? Yep. You look for the red, okay? We also have a color called orange, which can also mean things that aren't right, okay? But with the red flags, we're not gonna fly 2 red flags up a pole for you. There are things you need to look for, and this time of year, started a couple weeks ago, is any inspection we did where we could not inspect the air conditioning system because the ambient temperature was too cold in November, December, January, February, March, we always recommend that a HVAC person come out and check the units, because they can check it with meters and different devices to make sure that it is in fact functional, okay? So it's recommended that an HVAC person come out because the HVAC system couldn't be checked. This is not the time of year you want to find out you should have done that, okay? It's not a day at the beach getting an HVAC company out to your house to take care of HVAC issues. Has anybody had any so far this year? It's not a good problem to have. And then the other thing too is like, inspector will put numerous windows in the report. We had someone got tripped up on that. The house with 55 windows and 22 of them needed replacing. If the inspector puts 22 windows need replacing, what's your buyer gonna do? You're gonna freak out. But you do want to figure out what numerous means. But anyhow, don't be like me. Don't go to the beach, miss the double red flags. Right now they're flying for sharks, which I wish I was glad I only went in for riptides. I was a lifeguard at the Jersey Shore, so I know how to swim at Riptide. But Lunds Pro, residential resale, pre-drywall, new construction final, pre-listing, commercial, same-day report guaranteed. If your buyer doesn't get the report same day, you let me know. We'll refund their feedback. Termite, radon, mold, sewer scope, pool, spa, water quality testing, and we cover, if you stand in Macon with your back to Savannah and look north, we got you covered. Any questions? Enjoy your lunch. Larry with Lunds Pro. Have a great class.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. Very well done. I love that. And I'm a little jealous because, hi, I'd love to go to the beach. Okay. And moving on, and I promise you we're almost at hearing our phenomenal speakers that are coming up. And we have two really exciting things to celebrate. For those of you that don't know, we are here in Georgia part of the award-winning Southeast region. And every month we get a newsletter and we get to see our agents that have been climbing the charts and had a really good month the month prior. So first things first, we want to give a congratulations to Jimmy Barron because he was the number 5 individual in the Southeast region. Here's a little something for you there, Jimmy. Additionally, the other speaker that we have coming up now, I'll tell you, who's heard of Gary Keller? So here's the thing. Every year, Gary Keller has masterminds. He has individual masterminds. He has a top 100 agent mastermind. And let me give you a little bit of context for this. We have 160,000 agents in our company. How difficult do we think it is to get into Gary's top 100? It's pretty damn difficult, right? Well, I'll tell you, we had an agent last year. He was our number 1 individual agent, had the best year of his career that he's ever had, and truly focused on the discipline of doing what it takes every single day, saying no when he needed to, saying yes to the things he should have. And as a result, he found his way into Gary's top 100 agent mastermind. So a big congratulations to Michael Bunch, who went to his first mastermind last week with Gary and Jay. A little something for you. We are so proud of you. Right. Now, do we think that our speakers coming up know a thing or two about this business? Yeah, I think they know a thing or two, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring them up. Gentlemen, come on down. What everyone has been waiting for is here. And we're just going to have a conversation. And I want you to feel free to ask questions, share your experiences. But I'm going to pick their brains a little bit, and then we're going to open it up to the floor. Sound good? Yeah. Awesome. Guys, come on down. And I got to give them a kudos because y'all remember we pivoted. So the request was made yesterday, and they have graciously given us their time today. So let's just start off. I think it's clear that you're both tenured. You've been in the business. And you
Can I
share.
just say that for those of you who were expecting Michael Mayer, who is a great speaker, and you got us, it's like when you told your mom, hey, can you pick up some Oreo cookies at the grocery store, and she came back with a package of Hydrox. You know. So we're like Hydrox.
Trey Cooper? Trey's not in
Okay.
He's on Zoom.
I was going to say I've been in the business 20 years just to get under his skin after his post this morning, but it's actually been 29 years.
I love that. Well, let's just jump right in, okay? Because the question that's come about is, with everything that's expected, August 17th, and if you've been hiding under a rock, we're talking about the NAR settlement here. The conversation has changed around how we work with sellers and buyers. And we've been having classes left and right on the mid-year guard contract changes. Y'all, we have a CE next Monday on that too. But we'd love to hear from you. How are you guys approaching this conversation? And how are you handling any new forms that have come as a result of the conversation around compensation, not commission, compensation?
Well, from buyers and sellers, or specifically buyers?
I mean,
'Cause
start
it's
with
two-
buyers. We do get
Okay.
questions about sellers, but let's start with buyers.
Well, Michael and I were talking about this at breakfast this morning. And first of all, I'm curious, how many of you have had a situation where you've approached a listing that was not offering buyer's agent compensation? Anybody yet?
Oh yeah, we got demands.
Okay, but not many. So this is, for the most part, still uncharted territory for most people, because at this point it's not, a reality yet. I mean, it's a reality coming, but I don't know that many people have actually dealt with it yet. Now, do I think that it's going to be as earth-moving as a lot of people would be suggesting? I don't. I think that there may be at the beginning some, people not sure what's going on. But overall, at the end of the day, I do think that I see most sellers advised by their agents that it is in the seller's best interest to offer a buyer's agent compensation. And I do think that that's what's going to happen eventually. But right now, it's not. So it's kind of like more of a workshop at this point with all of us because we're all kind of like figuring it out.
Yeah, it's
I
it's
did
a
have
fluid situation, to quote my conversation with
it's
Eli
very
this morning.
fluid. I did have a situation recently with a buyer I'd been working with for a while, and we came across a listing. They were actually offering a 1% commission, and because I'd been working with this buyer for a while, we hadn't had the conversation about all the new changes and this and that. This was just actually not a seller who was adhering to the new GAR rules. This was just basically a cheap seller with an agent who, wasn't able to get him more than 1%. And I did sit down with him at that point. This is not how to do it because this was after we have already been looking at houses. But I said, listen, this house, just FYI, the seller is not compensating a full commission on this. And so in this case, like, you would be responsible for paying part of the commission. Are you okay with that? And he was. Now, I didn't, because it was my fault in not upfront telling him this could happen, I did offer him, I didn't tell him you need to make up the full 2%. I mean, I did, give him a deal on it, or reduced amount because I hadn't prepared him for it. So, and he was okay with it. He was like, okay, he got it. He understood.
And a quick caveat to that, y'all. We don't set your compensation here. I want to make that super clear.
There you
It's
go.
up to you
Okay,
as
yes.
agents, and you are the ones that will negotiate and dictate what your
Thank you.
compensation
Yes,
is.
thank you for
Yes.
clarifying that. Yeah, absolutely.
For whoever's watching out there in the ether and
No,
recording.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, having to re-point out that everything is negotiable. Well, first of all, and I'd use the restaurant analogy. I'm not going into the house thinking I'm going to negotiate on what I'm going to pay for what I eat. I'm not going into any Michelin-rated restaurant thinking that I'm going to negotiate off of what they're going to be charging me when they are at the top of their game. So you can say as a general broad brush concept, of course, everything is technically up for negotiation, but that doesn't mean the people on the other side of that conversation have to negotiate. So what I was thinking as Jimmy was talking is rocking the boat has risks. So if you're going to be a seller in this market and you're going to try to, pioneer some new compensation model for the agents, regardless, whatever you think, if you really need to move and you have a family that's involved, that has personal consequences. And you're just going to need to be careful with how you treat that decision. That's just a practical reality. So we're going to have to touch on maybe more conversations and more what-if scenarios about how the compensation is going and who's going to pay for it, who's going to be responsible for it. But short of that, I guess my journey in this is I've gotten wound around the axles on all of the explanations, and then I finally just said, how much is really, really going to change for the most part? And let's just be transparent and tell people what's going on, get things in the proper sequence, and don't make conversations don't make people have conversations that they don't want to have. So the engineer in me could try to go down every freaking possible scenario known to mankind when we don't even know how this is going to play out. But I could drag them through all of that. Jimmy asking me if I'll do this with him. I said yes, and then he kept going. And it's like, Jimmy, stop talking. Stop closing. I'm going to do it. The more you talk, the less I want to do it. So I just think there's a caution of making this more than it really is. and understanding that the portion of people in this market who are going to want to buck the way things have been done is probably a small fraction of the total population out there. So I want to think through perspective and backing myself off of going into way too much detail that gets way too complicated and unnecessarily so. You could drive the fun out of this.
I also think it's about. Oh, go ahead, Nanette.
This was several months ago, was that my customers started talking to other non-real estate related people and
Yes.
having their own conversations and coming up with their own explanations and examples and what they sort of kind of maybe should do. And that's what I felt was the most difficult part. So you've got to kind of rewind their thinking. And that's what I ran into.
You know, when you are not personally on the journey, and this goes for advice to people who are in the middle of real estate transactions from friends and family and well-meaning individuals, they can say whatever the hell they want to, because if they're not actually in the transaction and have things to lose, they can run their mouth till the cows come home, right? So wading through the noise that our clients are probably getting from well-meaning friends and family is something we've always had to do. It may just crank at a higher fever pitch because of the settlement, but I still come down to the fact that people want to move, and that takes buying and selling, at least in our business. And we don't need to drive the fun out of it. And we do need to get things in sequence. And we need to know the forms and how to fill in the blanks. And we need to fill in all of them. But we don't have to what if it to death. Let's just be clear and make sure that everybody understands how the compensation is going to work.
I think it. What's that? Well, I was just actually going to talk about that. So I think a lot of this is also in the language you use to speak with, well, certainly buyers and sellers. And there are books and seminars and KW speakers talking about the language of sales, which, by the way, does not pertain to just business. I just had a conversation with my wife last night, who was upset because she asked if her son, do you want to go? They're in Florida. Hey, do you want to go to this festival they're having? And he said no. He wanted to stay in the hotel room and play video games. And I said, because you asked him, okay, right? I've had this conversation with him. The language is, hey, we're going to this thing tonight at 6 o'clock. Okay.
Be ready.
It's gonna be awesome.
Be ready. It's going to be awesome, And so it's the language of sales. And I think when we're speaking about all these new forms and all the new, when we're talking about, and the original question was about dealing with buyers, is explaining like this is how it is. So there are a lot of changes in the business right now, and in how transactions are done. And so a lot of sellers are not, as they have been for 1,000 years, are not paying the buyer's agent commission. So in that case, you would be the one who is responsible for the buyer's commission. Okay, you're telling them how that's going to be, not is it okay if you are, so they're not going to pay. Are you okay with paying the buyer's commission? I would not say, are you okay with that? I would say, you are responsible for the buyer's commission. Now, I might ask them, and I think I can ask them this, but, and Lee Cohen, you might know,
He's not going to answer.
Right. No, I might follow that up with, do you still want to see houses? Do you want me to show you houses where you are going to be, where the buyer's commission, where you're going to be responsible for the buyer's commission? Because
The compensation.
For the compensation. Because there may be buyers, and I would imagine there will be buyers who are going to say, I don't even want to see those houses. I don't have that. I don't have the finances.
I'm curious,
So,
real quick, Eric, you had a real example where the seller stated that they were not paying the buyer's agent compensation.
Correct.
Correct. So how did that play out?
I just sat down with the buyer and said, let me tell you in advance before we go look at these commission structures, and we talked about commission because she had asked about the NAR settlement, and I explained what it was and get the 2-minute speech on it. And if you don't have a 2-minute speech on the NAR settlement, you need one.
If you didn't hear him, he said if you don't have a 2-minute, the ability to have a 2-minute dialogue about what the settlement is, you need one.
I can give you mine anytime you want it. But
It'll take 10 minutes.
It takes 20 because I get people interrupting me. But you just have to have that conversation up front, and then when it goes, oh, and here's one of the ones that's not paying, or you still want to see it?
So property by property,
Yeah.
you just go through and say,
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
here's the short list.
Is good. We got that one at 2 o'clock. We got 1, 2, 3 Oak at 2:30. 1, 2, 3. Maple says they're not paying the commission. You still want to see it? We can see it at 3.
I want to back up really quickly to something, and then I'll come back, because I also want to go to the point that Nanette had. If you didn't hear, you're talking about how you'll speak with clients and they've got friends all around, and they're basically like diagnosing the situation as though they're experts, right? But it's basically like saying you're sick, and instead of going to the doctor, you're going to go on WebMD and you're going to self-diagnose, and then somehow magically you're going to write yourself a prescription, go to the store, etc., right? And I think we're all guilty of that. And the reality is that when there's something actually that you need, 9 times out of 10, we go to an expert. If I was in a legal situation, would I self-attempt to do this? No, I would go and hire the best in the business. I'd find the best attorney, the person that I believed held the most amount of value and was an expert, and I'd hire them. And do you think they would negotiate their worth? No. And yet we're doing it every single day. And at the same time, as the expert in this market, we have to be confident. We have to know our worth. We have to be confident in that worth, and we have to be able to give context to why, more now than ever, someone needs an expert. So when Eric goes out on an appointment, there's no question that the value is there, and there's no question that he knows his worth, and he's actually just shown it by being able to explain what's happening in the real estate climate. Would y'all agree with that? A lot of times, like Michael said, it's not about getting into the minutia. Because here's the thing, we know they're scared. We know they're fearful. Your first-time home buyers have no idea what's going on. And by giving them just what they need, which is what I heard from you, they're able to make the best and most informed decision.
The other thing is, when I'm showing property, I probably like 2 out of 20 anyway. So maybe. Ayala says maybe. So maybe it's 1 out of 20. So you can't worry about going into all of that detail for all 20. This is 80-20. It's like shrink the world. Most of these don't even just need conversations because it's going to be an utter waste of time.
We don't have 20 houses to show at one time. Seriously.
Well, not anymore, but I mean, it could be 5 trips of 4, and I still only like 1 or maybe 2 because a lot of them are not a good fit, I won't say. But anyway, the whole point is, you don't have to worry about the compensation structure on anything but the short list. And once you go through that short list, there are a lot of reasons why your buyers may cull it out of their final short list. Commission compensation paid by the seller could just be one of many things that they use as a filtering criteria. You as the agent just can't use it. But they can use whatever they want because it's their house.
To Eric's anecdote about the buyer he had, it's also about, which one of these houses do you want to see. That's also, by the way, when I'm sitting with a seller and talking about the new frontiers, I'm saying, hey, just FYI, by not offering a buyer's agent compensation, you stand a good chance. I don't think you're allowed to say you will, but you stand a good chance of many buyers not wanting to see your house because they're not in a position to also pay their agent. So
that's where I came up with rocking the boat has risks.
It does.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know you start rocking on the boat and you could take on water.
Right.
And then that's on you as a grown-up.
At what point do you, during the buyer consultation process, discover whether or not they're in a position to make additional compensation should that be the scenario?
Okay, I love this question. I'm going to repeat it for those of you that didn't hear it or for those of you on Zoom. So Corey Wright has asked, at what point during the buyer consultation, thank you, because that presupposes that there is a buyer consultation.
Right.
Y'all, I'm being real because I know that a lot of agents are guilty of this. Heck, I think I've probably done it a time or two because it was a friend or a family member. So at what point during the buyer consultation do you raise the subject of this? And there was sort of a second part to that, Corey.
Or have you been in a position where you've had to have this conversation?
Right.
You know, we were talking about it yesterday. Is that how to broach that conversation, and I'm actually not as well versed on whether it's a VA. So even if we're in a VA situation, can they contribute to compensation? So I guess
How do you broach that conversation?
For
When do
me,
you
it is a
broach that
very tight
conversation?
triangle between them, their lender, and me. And we're having that conversation. And if they're on financial vapors and going 3%, then I know we don't have a whole lot of capacity for them to start paying the commission. If they're putting 30 family money, whatever, I mean, it could be the other side of the equation where they're paying cash and it doesn't matter as much. So usually there's enough financial detail coming to the surface as they are getting pre-approved that we know the answer to that before we get started, if that helps.
And I would just give you the short answer saying, I don't know when exactly, but I do know it's before we see a house. I mean, that's not something you want to tell them after they've fallen in love with a house.
Right. I'm going to come to you, Eric, in a second, and then Ayala and Annette. The other thing I will tell you is, by a show of hands, and y'all, this is like safe space, no judgment, we're all learning together. Who in their buyer consult, meaning you have a buyer consult, has an outline of what the process looks like? Does anybody have a timeline that they show their clients? Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, because there's not a lot of hands, this is something you will want to implement. Here is a best practice, okay? Heck, I'll give you mine. It's amazing. It's just and I inherited from somebody else. I R&D'd it. And what you're going to do is you're going to add another step in there.
Rip off and duplicate.
Yes, rip off and duplicate. We're not doing it from scratch. Rip off and duplicate it. Because all we're saying is, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here's what comes next. And as we go through the process of you choosing your expert, which thank you so much because I'm so excited to earn your business through this conversation, here's what that's going to look like. And then when you go through the whole thing, you've asked them questions, you've gotten to know them, and it's time to sign paperwork, that's when you get to, as the expert, put the contract in front of them, turn it around so they are reading it, and take them line by line. A lot of times we take this conversation, we make it its own conversation. Y'all, work it into the conversation. That is just one best practice that you can take. So if you're like, at what point do I da-da-da? Well, you're going to go through that contract anyways. Just put it right on in there. Any thoughts on that? Anything else you want to add to where that comes into play?
Well, Jimmy and I had this conversation before, and early on in the relationship, I call them players. They're going to shop the lender all the way to the last minute. They're going to cause us to sweat getting the appraisal done on time because they won't be able to order the appraisal because they're pitting lenders against each other even while we're in due diligence. I mean, there are just those temperaments that are going to just not feel like they've been a good steward of the process unless they've kind of negotiated it all the way down. That's one personality type. The other personality type is just tell me what I got to do and I'll do it. And so you're going to know behaviorally who you're getting into business with. That is going to play itself out both in the dating and the marriage of the transaction all the way through to the closing if you make it. And so just be a reader of behavior and be consumer minded. How do I help you get what you want? If you need a ton of information, then I'm going to ratchet up and give you a ton of information if that helps. But understanding which buyer type you have is going to be part of that equation because they may not give you the information that you need to help them because they're being cagey about how much money they have. And that's why the triangle of the lender is helpful because they will have to answer those questions for the lender. And then the lender will tell you, they don't have a ton of reserves. We are on razor thin margins on these percentages and ratios. And so they're not going to be able to do properties where the seller's not paying it and you can't work it into the deal.
And I always tell buyers before they speak with the lender, because, and I'm guessing most lenders have this conversation, but I I think there's a value in telling them, especially if it's a first-time home buyer, the lending process is a financial colonoscopy. You can use that. You can use that.
You can quote Jimmy
And
on
you
that.
can quote me on that. It is a financial colonoscopy.
Oh, now I'm seeing in
And-
every buyer presentation this huge quote.
Oh,
This is going to be a financial colonoscopy.
And you may not think that $2,000 that you got, for doing something a couple of years ago, you may think that, don't worry, the lender's not going to find out about this, or this doesn't matter, or this doesn't really make a difference. They will find all your financial polyps.
Do not hide
okay?
stuff and do not buy stuff.
To continue the analogy, they are not right.
Why do we say this though? Because sellers hate flaky buyers that are not prepared. And so if
Yes.
you're going into the one house that finally came on the market that you heard about in sales meeting, and you're trying to get them in there and beat out the competition, your buyer had better be prepared, and they had better be behaving like a really attractive buyer that's got all their stuff together.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, but
That's the only reason we go through this is we want them to win.
But let me just wrap up that thought, which is, at the end of the day, loans are underwritten. I mean, it's the decisions are made by people, and somebody in Phil's office is going to decide whether they think you are a good risk, and a lot of it is going to be based on, we were able to find, did they unearth things financially that were not disclosed? Okay, we know about them now, but they weren't disclosed. You're going to start to look shady. And
your contingency periods may be over.
Right, exactly. And someone's going to have to, it may make a judgment call based on your behavior and what your documents look like. What have they had to really pry out of you, Mr. Buyer? So you need to be a complete open book. You're not going to hide any money. Your parents are giving you $500 a month. They're going to find it. And they're going to want to know what it's for. And they're going to find a check that you wrote to somebody 4 years ago for $750 and want to know, hey, what was this? Right? So, whatever Philip wants from you, whatever you're
Give it to him.
just give it to them and get it to them quickly.
All right.
Sorry, we jumped the rails.
We're going to do a quick pivot. So let's kind of
Sorry,
pivot. We're
okay,
gonna come
sorry
back.
about that.
But
Back on topic.
What I would say to that is, are we expected to be the lender in a deal? No, that's why we have experts. That's literally why we have experts. And do you think it would behoove you to know the different loan programs that are out there? Absolutely. Now, Jimmy, you've got a form in your hand. Tell us about that form.
Oh, this is a form I use all the time.
In case you missed the sarcasm there.
Well, this is actually, I have actually received this form
Okay.
before. In fact, I believe it may be Ansley that this is now company practice, okay? Before...
Which side were you on when you got it?
I was a listing agent.
Okay.
We're talking about GAR
And
form 258.
258,
That
and
is
this...
the pre-showing form.
So some buyer's agents now are going to... Now, the good news is this is not a form that your buyer needs to see or that your buyer needs to sign. You don't have to explain it to the buyer or the seller. That's the good news, okay? But a lot of agents now, a lot of brokerages are requiring their agents before a home is even seen for the listing broker to sign an acknowledgement that this is how the commission structure is going to be, this is how it's going to be paid. I also would say if you're a buyer's agent, probably not a bad idea. I don't know if there's any, if it holds any legal ground, but freeze frame, take a screenshot of the FMLS page if it shows like 3%, and then all of a sudden you get this and it's 2%. This is going to certainly override what's on the FMLS, but it's good to have.
Well, when we get to a point that you no longer see compensation on the MLS, right, this form is what's going to tell you what the compensation is. And to Jimmy's point, it's really important that the brokers sign it and that the listing broker signs it. Because let me ask you a question. Do we put compensation in a purchase and sale agreement? No, we don't. And the thing is if we did, we'd actually give our buyers and sellers the opportunity to change your compensation midway through the deal. The moment you have the brokers in there, right, on both sides, now you're having a completely different compensation conversation because the broker has to sign off on it. So it's actually really important that you have that broker's compensation or the signature on there, because it actually does make it more binding. And Lee or Devika, any of our closing attorneys in the room, please feel free to speak up on this.
Yeah. No. It's the
It's not going to the
it's not
closing attorney.
No,
It's on
no,
the
no.
broker.
When you say broker, the agent
The
can sign
agent.
it. The agent. Yeah.
Right, sorry, the
Yeah.
agent.
Right.
So Marion Hayes did a post,
Yep.
I think on Mission Control, that said, gosh, I've spent all day faxing forms.
Yes.
When she said that, she's talking about this form for the 20 houses that she had available to go show her buyers and all of that. Now, for me, the script, and I have this in predictive text on my phone, meaning you can go into your keyboard and you can save a script if you've got an iPhone
Or
or
a
whatever.
dialogue, if
And
that's the word for you.
So what mine says is, hi, this is Michael Bunch with KW. Check in on 123 Main Street. Is it available? Are there any offers in play? How is the seller handling commission? That's compensation.
Wait, do me a favor. I'm actually going to ask you to say that again. Y'all take out your pens or write this down, because I know you're going to get to this point. You're going, I don't even know what to say, and I think I'm going to botch this.
And
One
it's
more time.
literally under the letters AV, which for me is available. And so I don't even go to show a property until I text this to the agent, and I'm working the short list to see if the short list is even still going to be available.
Say it one more time so they can write it.
So here's the script. Hi, Michael Bunch here with KW. Checking on 123 Main Street. Period. Still available? Question mark. Any offers in play? Question mark. How is the seller handling buyer agent compensation? Question mark. Same script, every single agent. Then, depending on how they respond, I will respond with, can you send me the pre-showing agreement? Is it already filled out? Because there's a time window in that form that they're going to have to insert.
Yes.
So anyway, that's the first volley, is that script. Got a
So
question?
wait, are you is the listing agent initiating this then? You're
this
saying
this
you're
would be
saying you
listing
should-
agent,
okay.
seller, and you on this form, right?
The buyer's agent may send it over if they haven't received it, and they want to make it, I feel like, more binding, that is the compensation being offered. So if we've just had a verbal conversation and I'm the buyer's agent and I don't have that in writing from you, I am sure as heck going to send that over, fill it out as much as I can, and have you sign it and return it.
By the way, FMLS put on their website that recently that because they are not owned by a board, they will be putting. They're not. It's not going to be traditionally how it is now, where it says compensation or commission, whatever it is says now. But there will be a field there that clearly says what the arrangement is. So that's really. I mean, that's good. That makes it a lot easier.
Well, and I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that, y'all. You're hearing something that is like blanketed nationally, and every state has
Yes.
its own
Yes.
rules as it complies with their MLSs. So be mindful of this when you're explaining this to clients, because there are states out there, their forms are not like our GAR forms, and have not been since day one. I think we had a question in the back from Jill.
In the purchase and sale, but there is now an exhibit that can be attached.
Yes.
Correct?
So that's the 259.
Yes, that's the broker compensation.
Do
But
tell.
the 259 says this cannot be used if there is another agreement in place, which would be the listing agreement, and nothing is changing. So if they're totally non-responsive, you don't know whether things are changing or not. So you may have to use that as the exhibit to force the conversation. But if the agent's being non-responsive, I'm going to conclude the property's under contract and they're just busy. Because if it's not under contract and they want me in the mix, they will be responsive.
Right,
So
I
there's
don't- yeah.
there's a body language issue going on with
Right.
that.
The only caveat,
that
though,
kind of concerns me.
Michael,
So-
but here's the thing, and y'all stop me if you haven't been through this, but have you ever had a buyer, they really wanted a house, you can't get any response, and yet your client still wants to buy that house. And when you go online, it shows as active. And so we can assume it's under contract. We don't actually know. The reality is you're likely writing that offer whether you wanted to or not.
Right.
Right? And I
Yeah.
would 100%.
So at that point, I would say you're in guerrilla marketing, which means you can't show the property to them unless you have the buyer's brokerage engagement done. You've got to set that at maxes because it can't go up. It can only go down. And then you run out there and work yourself into seeing that property, and then you try to rebound out of that, like Cara says.
I would almost add that exhibit, Jill, with everything, just as a best practice. Truly, I don't think I would send a single offer out without the Form 259, which is the broker compensation piece. And that's where I was getting confused earlier when I said broker compensation.
Well, it's either or, I think, and Lee will tell you.
I think they brought this in as a response to what's going on. And yeah, Lee, feel free to jump in at any time too.
I don't think we need the broker commission.
Compensation agreement.
The instructions to closing attorney if you have that.
The broker.
Unless something changes.
Form 259, right.
Seems like it's both. You get 255 or 259.
258 or 259.
Well,
oh, no, I
259 is if you don't have 258.
Yes.
If you have 258, you go 255, which is the instructions to closing it.
I was going to.
Well,
so I actually.
It's like, do you know what it's going to be? If you do, proceed accordingly. If they're being cagey or they say it's not, you're going to have to work the compensation into the deal if your buyer is not going to fund it outside of the price.
Classes that the, closing attorneys are offering. So you're not getting everything today. You need to attend one of their classes.
Thank you for saying that, because that really is the thing. If you have not attended a lunch and learn from Campbell and Brannon or anything like that, I mean, McMichael and Gray is going to have a class on Monday. I'll put that information up here in a minute. I am also going to put, and please give me to the end of the day, bear with me, y'all. I've got it's not a cheat sheet, it's still 7 pages, but I'll put the document in there, and it does give you the highlights of some of the mid-year GAR changes, and it does speak specifically to 258, 259 to give you an understanding of it. All you're hearing us say, you let me know, is just know the forms. Know the forms to the point that you can confidently speak about them, and if you don't, ask questions. And if you still don't understand, go to the class, ask the expert the questions. We're gonna wrap up with y'all's final thoughts on this here.
One quick thing is, we've just all trusted forever that if it's in FMLS, it's going to be done. And now I don't think that is wise, because at the bottom of every FMLS printout it says, believed to be correct but not warranted, and all of that, and don't believe, trust and verify the whole thing. So ultimately, I'm going to want to back up what is shown in FMLS and just confirm it with a listing agent, which is why I've got that text script. And then I either know to jump on the brake and pull over and get further information, or I know we're probably going to be fine and I'll paper over it in enough time to confirm that with the listing agent. Which means I can go ahead and schedule everything and still request that they send me that 258.
On a purchase and sale agreement, Lee Cohen, if the buyer puts in their buyer requests that either that seller pay a compensation, not a commission, and I don't know the difference. I don't know the difference, but my understanding is that that's okay language. That if it's coming from the buyer on the purchase and sale agreement.
Correct.
It's an exhibit.
If it's
No.
That was a special step that GAR came out with at the beginning of the year. Their desire in creating F259, the broker comp agreement, is to not use that STIP anymore and use the broker comp agreement because it says the same thing. It can ask the same thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So by incorporating that exhibit, which is 259, it covers in detail with all the language you're going to need now what you're trying to do.
It's like a canon stipulation that basically gets across the buyer request, seller pay 3%, but gives you a whole lot more protection. You just point out that that's really all you're asking.
Are there any new agents here?
Yeah.
Any new agents in the room?
If
Well,
there are,
if
they
there
haven't
are-
left yet. That's a good sign.
Welcome,
That's a
welcome,
good
welcome
sign.
to the weeds.
We're going to come up
Yeah.
from the weeds. I do
Yes.
want to say this too because Jimmy, you brought up a great point. Jimmy, you've been in the business for how long?
About 13, 14 years.
And this is okay. So on the reason why
And this guy is he is the agent's agent. Like, this is the guy that I have always wanted to emulate as an agent. So, yes.
So
Be
for
careful
those,
who you follow.
Oh, stop! Hey, who you work with matters. And so, I think a lot of you are like, I don't understand why we're not saying commission either. Why is it compensation? I'm just going to read this to you, okay? I don't set the rules. I just help us interpret and understand them, right? So the GAR Forms Committee changed the word commission to compensation for professional services, or compensation throughout our GAR forms. While it may take a year or two for the change to be made to all GAR forms, the committee believes that the word compensation more accurately describes all of the different financial arrangements realtors may enter into selling their services. Again, it just takes us safely away from, hey, we set a commission, which we don't, negotiable, whoever's watching, hello, and that is why we now call it compensation. Y'all,
Somewhat because it's a category which now includes bonuses, any incentives, a logoed koozie from a builder. Anyway, it all needs to be there, and we're going to need to contemplate, with our buyer clients, are you opposed to me getting a bonus? Is there any limit that makes you mad? And you can joke about it, but I think part of the reason compensation is there is because compensation is a broader category than just commission.
Yep. Now, let me ask y'all, was
You
this
do.
conversation helpful? Did this give some clarity? Is this to say that we're not going to have more questions as we go? We're absolutely going to have more questions, and we're going to continue to have this. So thank you so much, Jimmy and Michael. Yes?
I'm actually very glad you brought this up again today. We're doing a video or a lunch and learn on the 23rd with Ned Blumenthal, Pat Flood, and Michael Cheever. And thank you for, first of all, the colorful description of the mortgage business.
Very colorful description of the mortgage business.
The underwriting process.
Because we are seeing contracts come through with the commission agreement.
Right.
And if the agent is not communicating with us up front, it could change the entire way this loan is structured. So the communication is key. We'll give you a pre-approval, but then you go under contract and you don't call and say, hey Mel, you know what, they're gonna pay part of our commission. That could change everything.
Yeah.
So
Y'all
so glad you
communicate
brought that
with
up.
your lenders, all right? Let Melissa know what is going on with the client. Be like, hey, Luke, I got to tell you, this is what's happening. Have you seen this? Have you heard this yet? So,
Boom, your reserves are gone. Oops.
There you go.
Exactly. Refer instead of do you accept,
Right.
It can happen.
We got a
Y'all-
couple conditions.
Can
on
we
that.
say thank you to them? Let's say thank you to Jimmy and Michael. Whether you've been in the business for 6 months or a year or 20 plus years, just understand we're all navigating it together.
You can survive it.
You can absolutely survive it. And we talked a lot about the things that you really need to know, but the reality is know the forms, know your value, know your clients, as Michael said earlier, know the market and inventory. We talked about knowing the current loan programs, but know key negotiating points. Now more than ever, brush up on those skills, brush up on those dialogues. And if you have not attended a class yet, please come on Monday. Whether you're in this office or not, join us because, again, we are in this together as professionals. And lastly, our quarterly stats is coming up on July 31st. And not only will we be talking about what's happened in the market, but we're going to have our broker, one of our brokers from the Rawls Group, Sherry Arisby, will be joining us. And she's going to be talking about the settlement as well and giving you some good information. There might be some new information to share by that time. Otherwise, she'll just be giving a little bit more clarity on what to expect. So please join us. July 31st is a QR code. Ideally, register, come early. And thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and happy Wednesday. Thank you, gentlemen.